know, Sir Edmund Hillary's face, whether it's the Queen, which I don't give tuppence for, Sir Edmund I do, as my idol hero for as far as Kiwis go, as much as his face is a decent face, it's not worth anything. It's just a picture on a piece of paper. And when someone can sit there with a photocopy machine and just print these things out, while watching the world come, and the challenge that is being revealed around the world right now is every government is scared stiff about this deflation because they're trying to keep the value of everything up. You know, people have all their borrowings and their revolving credit facilities all linked to these artificial values of their houses and their... We come back to the swimming in the tide example again. The entire world's financial system is all based on this inflated value. And in the Conradiev wave, that example I showed you, the thing that occurs always when we go into that deep spike down is deflation. Assets, everything gets nailed, absolutely nailed down as people, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to fight deflation by printing lots and lots of money. They think they can they can stop it from happening. What's the time? 22:10?
I feel so interested in listening to you proud.
They're trying their very best to stop the world's financial system coming to a miserable crash by printing enough money. But of course what's happened is that all the money that's been loaned out to these houses for people that could never afford them, the banks are sitting on all this debt that can never be paid back, right?
Yeah.
It can never be paid back. So the governments are saying, well, look, you give us all the debt and we'll give you all this money and we'll trade it. But we want you to go out and loan it back to the people again. We need to get the system going again. But the banks are going, well, we're still sitting on a whole lot more bad debt too. And if we loan this out, well, we're not going to be sitting on enough money to keep ourselves solvent. So on the one hand, governments are saying, here's some money, we'll take all the bad debt off your books. Now get back up and start loaning to the people again. We need to keep this thing going. And the banks are saying, yeah, look, I know we've sold you all the bad debt, but it's not all the bad debt. We've got more bad debt and more bad debt. And the world is still full of leverage. Everywhere, leverage, leverage, leverage. And so ultimately there has to be a cleansing. There has to be a return back to square values. In all of history, gold and silver have roughly been around about 1/15 of the price. And only in recent times have they discovered that silver exists in the Earth's crust at a ratio of around about 1/15 times rarer than gold. You think, how did the Egyptians and all those other people through the millennia decide that silver shall be worth roughly 15 times or 16 times less than a single ounce of gold? And then suddenly in modern day, only now modern geologist techniques actually realise that actually it occurs on a ratio of that. Yet these days, because of manipulation in the futures market, on those sorts of evil programs that I sort of play around on, is the market making programs. You know, the problem today is that what we've got is that all over the world, you know, it's 1351, that's what it's coming down. I just sold a position and I'd like it to go down there and get back in here. The reality is this is a really election. And this whole market making principle, this market making life, all over the world, black boxes allowing people to buy and sell things that don't exist. They're never going to deliver on them, and all it does is keep the price of these things depressed way below.
Every year, as this crisis became worse and worse, people thought it's over, but it wasn't, because governments, as poor President Obama has covered himself with a raft of fools, are enacting the same laws that Roosevelt. History is repeating itself in some frightening ways right now. They're doing exactly what they did. I haven't got time to show you timeline of the Great Depression. I've got all these bullet points. I'm going, yes, yes, yes. And so, you know, the reality is in 1933, Roosevelt confiscated the people's gold. He took every bit of gold off everybody, and then a period of time later, he released it back out at twice the value. But you weren't actually allowed to own it anymore. Americans weren't actually allowed to own gold. So not only did he confiscate it off the people, he then revalued it and said, you can't have it, you've got to take this. this dollar note. Then still were backed by gold, but you couldn't swap it. And then you slowly, foreigners could swap it, and then you get back into the crisis when de Gaulle of France, who was supplying America lots and lots of goods, eventually said, there's far too many of those in relationship in the world to these. And foreigners were allowed to redeem their paper for gold, and they said to America that were fighting a major war in Vietnam and spending all the precious money they had, we want gold. And Nixon knew that Fort Knox and the Federal Reserve was going to get cleaned out, so he said, that's it. Bang! We're not swapping any more gold for paper. Sorry, we're not allowing anybody to claim, you must take paper. And so he took America off the gold standard. And that, I showed you that line before, how they used to balance the budget, and then they just went down like a rocket ship. And here we are, we're printing an extra $1 trillion here, you know, TARP or TAF, and they've got all these fancy words. They're going to print, I mean, Obama's gone to Congress for $1 trillion, he'll be back asking for $1 trillion before the end of the year. You know that? Another $1 trillion. They're just going to print, and this is the world's reserve currency.